Our impact and engagement project, Cooling Down, will produce a series of interactive experiences and use these to gather public opinion about the value of landscapes around sites of post-war infrastructure. This element is attached to our wider research and linked to a networking project named the Landscapes of Post-War Infrastructure, Culture, Amenity, Heritage and Industry, which is also supported by the Landscape Decisions Framework. Both aspects of the project are connected to our work as educators at the Manchester School of Architecture. As historians, architects and landscape architects, we know that high-quality design thinking and extensive collaboration went into the production of these landscapes around power stations, motorways and reservoirs in the rapid modernisation of the country after the Second World War. If the landscape architect did their job really well, then 60 years on it is hard to recognise that a professional designer was even involved. Alongside the innovative design work, a substantial programme of amenity provision accompanied the development of infrastructure. All sorts of leisure was catered for, in and around infrastructural sites. Nature reserves, wetlands, community halls, golf courses, playgrounds, sailing clubs and more. As well as these formal programmed uses, other activities have grown in and around these sites, such as cycling, hill climbing, kit car racing and motorbike scrambling. The value of these landscapes is not just in their use though. The massive forms of gasometers, cooling towers, generator halls, dams and bridges loom large in the imagination, as many have a powerful presence in the landscape, and they symbolise the sweeping modernisation and optimism of the post-war period. As we move to a carbon-free economy, these landscapes are being dissembled. The association between the amenities and the sites themselves becomes weakened, and the ties that once bound communities with their landscapes through both work and play are broken. It's inevitable that these landscapes will change. In this project, we want to capture and represent the design innovation as we believe it has value to the design of future infrastructural landscapes, whatever they are made from. We also want to discover what these landscapes mean to people, how they value these landscapes as users inside the landscape and as viewers of the landscape. We think that these users are really important in understanding the social, cultural and amenity values that landscapes of post-war infrastructure created and how these values have evolved with sites over time. Using the Yorkshire coalfield, we will understand the landscapes of extraction, power generation and waste disposal as an interlinked regional landscape based on its geology. By selecting case study sites within this domain, we will also grapple with local landscape decision-making around use, ecology and amenity. The eventual reporting of our findings will show new ways of visualising value by using a combination of quantitative and qualitative data to enrich the readings and understandings of these sites as they change, and to make sure that their latent values are adequately represented in decision-making processes. This will use our experience in data mapping that has been developed through design-led research into geolocative data and media at the School of Architecture over the last decade. We'll communicate our findings through three key outputs. First, an immersive filmic experience co-produced with Soup Collective, the Yorkshire Film Archive and the North West Film Archive. This experience will be used to engage older children and adults and will be a form of docutainment that uses new oral histories, archival sound and film recordings, new music and new footage to create a narrative work that speaks of the birth, life, death and afterlife of sites of infrastructure. Secondly, a board game for primary school children will be developed in collaboration with the Manchester Games Network, local primary schools and the Science and Industry Museum. The game will be designed by third-year students at the Manchester School of Architecture. And finally, an interactive design experience will be created for older children in collaboration with local secondary schools, filmmaking students from the Manchester School of Art and master's students from the School of Architecture. All of the elements will be presented together at Blue Dot 2021, a family-orientated science, arts and music festival held annually at Jodrell Bank Observatory in Cheshire. The work will be used to create a multi-generational discourse about the intangible values of landscapes and will engage the general public in an aspect of their cultural landscape and architectural heritage. We will capture the voices, reactions and opinions at the festival. Local schools, visitors to local museums and festival attendees will engage with the games and the immersive filmic experience. By weaving together the research project, teaching, production and dissemination, the workshops and activities will help primary and secondary school children and university students to discuss and develop their understanding of infrastructure, landscape, ecology, leisure, carbon futures and well-being. The results of these impact activities will feed into our final policy advice about the possibilities of mapping, understanding and representing the tangible and intangible heritage of landscapes of infrastructure.